good. It's interesting because I think the one thing that the media has been successful at it is definitely creating the caricature of Candace, and that caricature is an angry, bitter, upset, always yelling person, and that could not be further from the truth. And I think with this show, you're going to get the truth. You're going to get all of the other side of me. I think one of the most frustrating lies to contend with is this idea that I grew up as a privileged girl in Connecticut. People hear Connecticut and they think that you're wealthy and you're rich, and it couldn't be further from the truth. You know, my life started in a very small, roach-infested apartment, sharing one bedroom with my two sisters, and I had to fight for everything that I have. And it's because I fought and because I won that I know that packed within conservatism are the lessons that everybody needs to learn. It's about individualism, it's about hard work, and my life story is exactly that sort of a tale. It's funny because one of the things that people who work with me are always so surprised to find out is that I have a sense of humor. And that really tells you how good the media has been at creating this Candace caricature, because my sense of humor is probably the biggest piece of my personality. I can't imagine getting through life without having a sense of humor. And I think in this day and age, people take themselves too seriously. I'm constantly having fun. I'm always laughing, and I'm incredibly happy. And I definitely want to inspire the same in my audiences. In terms of politics and being a public figure, I started on YouTube. I'm the YouTube American dream. I really just one day uploaded a video. It was actually a skit, which is why people that have followed my career the longest, they know that humor has always been my way to communicate message. And I think it was by my third YouTube video. It went trending worldwide and got 26 million views. That was really it. Everything changed in a moment on YouTube. Next day, I was getting calls from networks to come onto TV, and it has felt like one big rocket ship since. Everybody knows this, and I've said it so many times, but my grandfather is the person that has influenced me the most in my life. He is my hero. I think he is the coolest person in the entire world. I'm blessed to still have him, and I think it's really because of the things that he lived through that I could never not take the opportunities that his life provided me, and to see myself as a victim, it would definitely feel so fraudulent, especially knowing all the things that he lived through. So I'm Granddad's biggest fan. Another thing that people don't know about me, which I find to be hilarious, is that I have two sisters, and we are all a year and a half apart. And I find it to be hilarious because I guess I must come across like an only child on my on my social media channels. I guess I must seem like I've never heard the word no, when actually I'm in the middle. So I really never heard the word yes. And we grew up fighting. We were scrappy little girls. We were always fighting, hitting each other, making fun of each other. So I always say my sisters were my first bullies in life. So you're going to be hard pressed to find a comment on Instagram or YouTube that's going to upset me. I've probably already heard it, and it probably came from my sisters. I feel like I've had so many look mom, I made it moments, but I would say probably a moment that I will never forget would be the moment when, of course, Kanye West tweeted, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." And the reason that moment was so big is not just because of his celebrity, but because of what he meant to me growing up. His music and his lyrics was just such a part of me feeling like I could be something else, that I didn't have to conform, because he is one artist who has never conformed to expectations of him. But I just see him as someone who is audacious and daring to be different, and that's who I've always been. So that moment to me was like, oh my gosh, when your idols start saying that they like you, it's a tricky moment. Kanye and I, we had two different times in our friendship. The first time was when it sort of blew up in the media, and I guess I just wasn't prepared to have a friend at that level where people are actively seeking to make sure this friendship doesn't happen. And I think today we've sort of landed on the side where I've realized that not just with Kanye, but with a lot of other celebrities, that it's best just keep the friendships private. Kanye and I are cool. He's great, and I still view his friendship, his mentorship, and his music as a blessing. biggest rumors out there about me that drives me crazy is that I used to be a Democrat, and then I just flipped one day and was like, okay, I'm going to be a Republican because this is where the money's at. Couldn't be further from the truth. I have never been registered as a Democrat. I have never voted for a Democrat politician in my life. What I have said, which is true to my story, is that I used to be a liberal. So liberal is an ideology. So when I was younger, I was woker. I kind of, fell for the feminism thing when I was young, which is natural. I think there's that old expression that if you're not a liberal when you're young, you don't have a heart. If you're not conservative when you're older, you don't have a brain. I have a brain. Areas of politics that I probably am caring about more and more is definitely those that are impacting children. Obviously, I am a new mom, first time mom, and I've always cared about this because I think that once upon a time we sort of left the kids out of it, and now it seems that the threshold is getting younger and younger and younger. We are going after kids that are in kindergarten, confusing them about topics like gender. And all of this is, of course, because they're trying to sort of force these leftist ideologies on them as soon as possible. I think right now I'm probably the most passionate about the education system because they are not educating, they are indoctrinating. Yeah, that is hard. It's hard to just say this was the number one highlight throughout my political career because there are so many and for different reasons. Like, I don't think I'll ever forget, of course, holding my book that I wrote in my hands, especially because it was such a fight to do it because the publishers just had a different idea of what the book should look like or what the book should say. And I really had to fight for every inch of my brand to stay authentic to who Candace is. So when I was able to walk into a bookstore, I'll never forget, at Howard University, and I purchased my book at the counter, I thought, wow, this is such a big deal because from the time I was a little girl, I always said that what I wanted to be was a published author, and to be not only a published author, but to be so when so many people told me that I wasn't allowed to have a voice, and to make it to the New York Times bestseller list, and to hold that spot for weeks on end. That was really cool. But, also Blexit, the Black Exit Movement, my 501c3 not-for-profit. The first time we sold out in that event, and I looked across the audience, and there were minorities in the room listening to conservative principles, talking about father absence and being excited. And a moment when somebody comes up to you, a Black American, and they say, and to me this is the most meaningful sentence, that finding me made them feel like they got their life back. And that doesn't resonate with everybody. And it really resonates with Black Americans who were caught under a liberal prison, a liberal ideology that really imprisons you because all you're allowed to be is a victim. When people say that to me, I feel it in my heart because that's how I felt when I first realized I was a conservative. I suddenly felt like a bird being released out of a cage and didn't even know that they had wings. And I guess that's a really cheesy analogy, but that's how it feels. So whenever someone says that to me, I feel it so in my heart. And those moments matter. And of course, there's the glamorized moments. I mean, standing in the Oval Office, trippy. If you never thought you could make it there by telling the truth and being true to who you are. Like, how freeing is that? I got here, standing here in the audience with the President of the United States because I had the audacity to be me. That's pretty cool. I think realizing I was a conservative was a process. I didn't really assign those attributes that my grandparents has to a certain ideology. This is conservatism or this is liberalism. I never sat down and really thought about what I believed in. I was very close with my grandmother. She was a mother to me. And when she died, I sort of just recalled all the things that she had said to me in the end about just being really concerned about me, and that was when I was more liberal and sort of chasing the liberal highs, as I like to say, and it sort of tethered me to a moment of saying, who do I want to be? What would make my grandmother proud? And I realized that all the lessons that her and my grandfather taught me growing up, they meant something, family, having faith, working hard. I mean, these were really simple principles that were getting lost. So I remember sort of since 2013 sort of questioning things. And then there's no question that the media definitely was the catalyst. In 2015, watching them attack Donald Trump, who at the time I did not support. I did not want Donald J. Trump to be president. And then listening to the media say that he was a racist, sexist, misogynist just made me pause for a second and ask myself, wait a second, isn't this the same guy that was on TV all the time? He's the guy that says you're fired. I didn't think in 2015 that he was equipped to be the president, but I never thought he was a racist or a sexist or a misogynist. And I think in that moment I asked myself, is it possible that racism is actually now being used as a theme to strap Black Americans to a certain existence. And when I really thought about it, I knew the answer was yes, and that somebody needed to break the mold. And I thought, why not me? Why can't I be somebody? I think probably the ironic part is that we live in a time where the media is constantly saying we need to elevate Black voices, we need to elevate the voices of women, Black women need to be heard. Unless that woman is Candace, I think it frustrates them tremendously that I'm still here and that I'm not going anywhere. Maybe the best way to say it is that Candace is uncancelable. Oh gosh, when people ask me where I see myself 5, 10 years down the road, I'm like, which road? If you had told me that I would be a Tennessee resident last year, I would have said you were crazy. If you had
150.